Good evening from Los Angeles. I'm Jason Johnson in for Chris Hayes. We're waiting for the special counsel to respond to Donald Trump's wildly expansive claim of presidential immunity. Trump says he can't be prosecuted for January 6th because he was acquitted in his Senate impeachment trial. And he contends that he has, quote, absolute immunity from prosecution for his official acts as president. Jack Smith is expected to respond to those claims before the appeals court hears arguments on Trump's immunity claims on January 6th. All rulings on the January 6th case are currently on hold while that appeals process plays out. But that didn't stop the special counsel from filing a new motion with Judge Tanya Chutkan today, asking the court to not allow, quote, the defendant to turn the courtroom into a forum in which he propagates irrelevant disinformation and should reject his attempt to inject politics into this proceeding. Smith also wants the court to, quote, prohibit the defendant from introducing evidence, making arguments, or framing questions to advance a theory of selective or vindictive prosecution. Basically, special counsel wants to make sure Trump can't say this is Joe Biden's DOJ targeting him. And in response, Trump said Joe Biden's DOJ is targeting him. A rant by the ex-president called Jack Smith crooked Joe Biden's errand boy, and a campaign email that went out just hours after the filing. Joining me now to discuss this is Ryan Riley, justice reporter for NBC News and author of Sedition Hunters, How January 6th Broke the Justice System. Ryan, thanks so much for joining me this evening. Look, I have to start with this. So one part of the ruling we're waiting to hear, Jack Smith is basically laying out to Judge Chutkan, I don't want Trump to do the thing that we know that Trump is going to do. Is this working the refs? Is this sort of saying, hey, you know that Shaq is going to spend more than 3 seconds in the key? Is he working the refs here? Or does he actually think that Judge Chutkan is going to be able to stop Trump from doing the thing that he always does?
Hey, Jason, I think that this has happened in case after case before with other January 6th defendants where they've tried to bring up these sort of irrelevant charges that aren't based in any fact or reality about the FBI sort of setting up January 6th. This notion that the FBI was controlling these figures behind the scenes who were directing these Trump supporters to do these terrible things. And lo and behold, I got caught and did something I wasn't supposed to do. I think it sort of speaks to the failure of the January 6th committee in some respects, because the January 6th committee didn't end up focusing a lot on the FBI failures that led up to January 6th. And because of that, you have a lot of people who are willing to sort of accept these bizarre conspiracy theories that all lean on this idea that the FBI is extremely competent and was pulling these things behind the scenes, when in reality, there were just a bunch of failures that led up to January 6th. And what happened is a bunch of Trump supporters thought that the election was stolen and stormed the Capitol. What happened is pretty simple, but they're trying to bring in all of these other facts around it and or other disinformation around it and trying to pretend like there's some grander conspiracy here that the FBI is all behind it. Having read through thousands of pages of FBI emails, I mean, it should be ridiculous on its face, but once you read these emails and see how many problems there were from the FBI in the lead up to January 6th, it really starts to seem absolutely ridiculous.
It's always interesting to me, Ryan, that anti-government conspiracy theorists think the government is terrible and incompetent until it suits their conspiracy theory, and then suddenly they're all geniuses and all able to do everything that they want them to do. Speaking of this, I think this conspiracy is key. In the Smith filing, he talks about this idea of undercover agents, and he says, look, we don't want to allow defendants to introduce evidence about undercover actors because that would inevitably lead to confusing many trials on collateral issues, such as the identities and intentions of the alleged undercover actors. For example, it may require the government to introduce evidence to show that people whom the defendant alleges were undercover actors were actually his vehement supporters. Ryan, you've written about this, and I find this to be one of the most critical elements of any prosecution about Trump on January 6th. How can we stop that from happening? How can you prove a negative? Because Trump supporters, as you sort of pointed out, have long pushed this theory that this is all this sort of Scooby-Doo conspiracy theory that if you pull off the mask, it was Antifa, but if you pull off the other mask, it's the Trump supporter, but that person is innocent. How do you stop that in court?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost comical, but it does become this big distraction and this big time waster. There was a recent case, and I wrote about this last week, but there's been even a more recent case since my piece last week involving someone that people alleged was a Antifa supporter who ended up, oh, lo and behold, just to be a Trump supporter. But it's happened time and time again. One of the sort of most hilarious examples to me is that there's an individual who two people on the very day of, there were two people dressed in black, and people were yelling in the crowd at that moment, getting sucked into these conspiracy theories, saying they're Antifa, they're Antifa. What was that based on? Basically, if you were wearing black or if you're smashing windows, you were automatically assumed to be Antifa, right? There was not like a deep inquiry into the political ideology of the individuals smashing the windows at the time. It was just like, oh, they have to be Antifa. And then lo and behold, one of them was a guy who went around to Trump rallies, was one of the quote unquote front row Joes who went to Trump rallies because he went around the country, got in line, and was one of the first people in line for a lot of Trump rallies. The other individual was actually just arrested more recently, and he's also a deep Trump supporter. I went back and scrolled through his Facebook page back in 2020, and it's pro-Trump meme after pro-Trump meme, anti-Biden meme after anti-Biden meme. And then there's the fact, of course, that he tried to storm the Capitol after Donald Trump said you have to fight like hell. So it just happens time and time again where there's supposed to be this next mystery under the, it's going to be under the next door, and they just fail over and over and over again. But at some point, it kind of gets into the, a lot of people start to believe it. And a lot of Trump supporters really do believe that this was some undercover Antifa operation. And so Donald Trump would, if he has the opportunity to, take advantage of that to any extent that he could.
Ryan Riley, thank you so much for starting us off this evening.